Dear students, welcome to the digital image processing class. Let us continue on our module 2, that is the filters. Today we will see about the sharpening filters, that is the Laplacian filters and the gradient filters. Today we are going to see about the sharpening spatial filters. The main aim in the sharpening is we have to highlight certain intensities. It has a wide range of applications, like in the electronic printing, medical imaging, industrial inspections, and in the military systems. In the previous topic, we have seen the image blurring can happen when we are going for averaging in a neighborhood. The averaging is same as integration. So now we can conclude that sharpening is the opposite of that. That means sharpening will be achieved by making use of differentiation. We can go for the sharpening filters by making use of the first order and the second order derivatives. Let us look at some of the fundamentals in this spatial filtering. So we are going to concentrate first on the one-dimensional derivatives. Here we are going to concentrate on how these derivatives are going to behave when it is having constant intensity. What will happen at the beginning, at the end of the discontinuities. So beginning of the intensity will be called as the step, and the end of the discontinuity it will be called as the ramp. And also along constant intensity, how it is going to behave. We are going to see all of this. The derivatives of a digital function, they can be understood in terms of their differences. There are several ways we can define these differences. First, in the first derivative, we see that the value must be 0 in areas of constant intensity. The value must be non-zero at the onset, at the beginning of an intensity step. That is called as ramp. And it also must be non-zero value along the ramps. If we go for the second order derivative, in that case, the differences must be 0 in constant areas. And it must be non-zero at the onset and the end of an intensity step or ramp. And it must be 0 along the ramps of the constant slope. So these are the conditions for the second order derivative. So because we are dealing with the digital values here, the values will be finite. And the maximum possible intensity change what we are going to have, that will also be finite. And the changes what are there, they will be occurring between the adjacent pixels. The basic definition of the first order derivative of one-dimensional function f of x is the difference f of x plus 1 minus f of x. So here we are considering only one variable, that is x. We are going to make use of partial derivatives here, so that whenever we go for a two variables, at that time we are going to make use of two spatial axes. So anyhow, when we are using a partial derivative also, it will not affect any way in which we are going to get the output. It will be the same thing if it is partial derivative or if it is not a partial derivative. So we are going to consider the partial derivative. For a single variable, the second order derivative of the function f of x will look like this. It will be equal to f of x plus 1 plus f of x minus 1 minus 2 f of x. So easily we can see that this will also satisfy all the conditions of the partial derivative. So let us see an example where we can bring out the similarities and the differences between the first order and the second order derivatives of this digital function. Now we will see how for the second order derivative of one-dimensional digital function, we are going to get the output. So the one-dimensional digital function what we have taken here, it is a section of the horizontal intensity profile from an image. That means the scan line what I have considered here, it is one row of information in an image. So image is nothing but it will be having multiple rows and multiple columns. Among that I have taken only one row for input over here. So in the second order derivative we can see that we have the formula f of x plus 1 plus f of x minus 1 minus 2 fx. So based on this I am going to calculate what will be the value, And you can see that the intensity or the differences will be equal to 0 when it is constant, but it will be non-zero when there is a change. So there is a change in the value when we are going from 6 to 5. So in that case there will be a change, and then again it will be equal to 0 when it is having constant intensity, and it becomes constant whenever we are having there is no change, then we are having the constant values that will be equal to 0. So this is the second order derivative. A little more information about what we have just plotted. So the values inside the small squares, they are the intensity values in the scan line, and they are plotted as the black dots. The dashed line connecting the dots is used for improve your visualization. So we can see that the scan line will be containing an intensity ramp, 3 sections of constant intensity, and an intensity step. The circles indicate the onset or end of the intensity transition. In the first or the second order derivative, we can see that the scan line will be seen in the figure B and it is plotted in the figure C. Now let us consider how we can build a filter. So you know what is a filter? It is a mask, or it is a small image which we are going to apply on the main image. Here we will consider a second order derivative for making the image sharp. So the basic approach what we are going to make use of is we are going to build one discrete formula, and then based on that we are going to develop one filter mask. First we are going to build one isotropic filter. Why isotropic filter? Because the response in this one, it is independent of the direction of the discontinuity in the image to which I am going to apply. So this filter, isotropic filter, it is also rotation invariant. That means if I am applying my filter and then applying the rotation, or when I apply the rotation and then apply the filter, both of them will be giving the same result. The simplest isotropic derivative operator, it is called as the Laplacian. So for the Laplacian, we have for two variables, the equation can be given by 3.63. So we know that the derivatives of any order, they are always linear operations. So the Laplacian is also a linear operator. This equation can be got by 3.6.2. This 3.6.3 is for two variables, and of course we are getting this one by making use of the previous equation 3.6.2, because now we are going to add one second variable, that is y. So f of xy, this what we have the formula, this is called as a Laplacian operator. Individually when you are going to consider this equation for the x direction, we are going to get the formula 3.64, and for the y direction we are going to get it as 3.65. So these are based on the derivative equations of second order. So when we have a second order derivative, but in this case I am going to combine both the variables, that is the x direction as well as the y direction. So combining this, we are going to get the equation for a second order derivative in terms of the x and y values. Combining the previous equations, that is for the x value, for the y value and the second order derivative, I am going to get my discrete Laplacian for the two variables by the equation 3.6 and 6. So this equation, it is called as a mask. We can change this one, or what we can tell, we can get a mask by making use of this equation. That mask is going to give an isotropic result for rotations in increments of 90 degree. So the mechanics is similar to the smoothing filters what we had used previously, that is the linear smoothing filter, but in this case we are going to have different coefficients. The diagonal directions, it can be included in the definition of the Laplacian, where we are going to add two more terms, and these two terms will be on two diagonal directions. So the form of each term here, it is same like in the previous formula 4 and 5, but the coordinates will be along the diagonals. Because each diagonal is going to contain minus 2 f of xy term, the total subtracted from the difference term will be equal to minus 8 f of xy. So now we will see one filter which will be used for implementing this new definition. This filter will be having an isotropic result whenever we are going to have an increment of 45 degrees. So we can see that the Laplacian mask will be seen in the next slide, and these are obtained from the definition of the second order derivatives, but in this case we are going to consider the negatives of that equations. We can do like that also. We can take only the positive values or the negative values also. So that we have to keep in mind the difference in the sign when we are going to combine two or more Laplacian filtered images with another image. This mask is derived from the equation 3.66. So that equation, what was in that equation? It was equal to f of x plus 1 comma y plus f of x minus 1 comma y plus f of x comma y plus 1 plus f of x y minus 1 minus 4 f of xy. So we can see the coefficients for this formula. What it will be equal to? It is equal to minus 4 for the f of xy. I am going to consider the center pixel as f of xy. And the coefficients for the four neighbors, that is x plus 1 comma y, x minus 1 comma y, x comma y plus 1, x comma y minus 1. For all these coefficients, with the value is equal to 1. That is why I am going to get the mask here as the 3 cross 3 mask, which is equal to 0 1 0 1 minus 4 1 0 1 0. The same thing when you are going to extend on the two diagonal terms, then you are going to include the other four neighbors also. That means the other four neighbors of the f of xy, and you are going to get the midterm as equal to minus 8, which is the double of minus 4. So these are the two masks what we are going to get when we apply the equation 3.66. The other two implementations of the Laplacian is nothing but the negative of the a and b as c and d. So we can see that the center pixel, which is f of xy, it will be equal to positive now, whereas the other four, they will be having the value as minus 1. Similarly, when we go for the D picture, here we are having the center pixel will be equal to 8, because we are going to consider the two diagonal values also. And of course, all the other neighbors, they will be equal to minus 1. This is just the opposite of B. So because a Laplacian is a derivative operator, so we are going to get the intensity discontinuous of an image de-emphasized region with slowly varying intensity levels. That means we are going to get an image which will be having a grayish edge. The lines and edges, they will be having grayish edges. And if there are any other intensities, all of them will be superimposed on a dark featureless background. So background features can be recovered while still preserving the sharpening effect of the Laplacian. So when we add the Laplacian image to the original image, we have to keep in mind certain things when we go for a Laplacian. If the definition is having a negative center coefficient, then we should go for subtracting. When we subtract, we are going to get a sharpened result. So the basic equation for the Laplacian image sharpening is given by this 3.6 and 7, where we have the f of xy and the g of xy. They are the input and the sharpened images. So whenever we are having f, we know that f is the input and g is the output. So g is the sharpened image. The output will be a sharpened image, and the f of xy is the input image. So the constant c here will be considered minus 1 if I am going for a Laplacian filter of a or b. That means we are having in the center, we will be having a positive value. The constant will be equal to 1 if the two filters of c and d are used here. Now let us see one example of this Laplacian when it is applied on one image. So we are going to consider this as the input image. So it is a slightly blurred image of the north pole of the moon which is going to be considered, and then we'll see when we apply the Laplacian how this image will be transformed. First we will apply our mask A. So when I apply this mask A, you can see that large sections of this image will become equal to black because it is having both positive and negative values. And all the negative values, they are clipped at 0 by the display. So this is what we are going to get, and when I am going to apply the mask A. That means this is not giving much effect. It is not giving very good effect. So when I apply the mask 3.37 A. In the previous topic we have studied about how we can go for scaling the result to the full intensity range. So this effect will be seen when we are going to apply the scaling. So we are going to make use of scaling here, and what happens, the edges will become more sharp, so that the edges are more clear here. So previously we had the black background, now it has changed to grey because of the scaling. The Laplacian image, when it is scaled properly, this is the effect what we are going to get. So we are experimenting with different ways how we can apply the masks on the input and see how we are getting the results. In this case, you can see that the image has become more clear and sharp. So how we are going to get this one? The original image what is there, it has been restored by making use of the overall intensity variations in the image. The Laplacian is increasing the contrast at the locations of the intensity discontinuities. When the intensity is having changing values, there is a discontinuity, there we are bringing out the contrast because of the equation. So the end result what we are going to get here, it is enhanced, and the background is also very well preserved. So here we are having, when we are going to repeat the procedure with the filter B. B means when we are having -8 at the center. So here we note a significant improvement in the sharpness than what was in the previous one. So this is unexpected, and it is also very good. So results such as those in the figures D and E will make us conclude that the Laplacian can be used as a tool for sharpening the digital images. So it is very clear that making use of the Laplacian filter, we can go for enhancing the features. So this is called as the sharpening Laplacian filters. Now we will see what is unsharp masking and high boost filtering. One process is available in the industry, that is the printing and the publishing industry, where they will sharpen the image, and this sharpening is done by subtracting an unsharp, or we can tell a smooth version of the image from the original image. So first we are going to smoothen one image, and we are going to take the difference. So this difference, that is called as unsharp masking. So the process will be consisting of 3 steps. First what we have to do, we have to smooth, that means we have to blur the original image, and then subtract the blurred image from the original image. So the result what we are going to get, that will be called as the mask, and this mask I am going to add to the original. This type of masking is called as a unsharp masking. Say we have f dash of x comma y as the blurred image, that is the smoothed image. So the unsharp masking, it is given in the equation as below. So we take the original image f of xy, and we take the blurred image f dash of x comma y. We find the difference, and that will give the g mask of x comma y. Then some part of this, not everything, some part of this, it is going to be added to the original image, that is f of xy plus k into g mask of xy. It is going to give my output image, which is the g of xy. So g of xy is the output. Here we are going to make use of one weight, which is called as the k. It will usually be greater than or equal to 0. When k is exactly equal to 1, we have unsharp masking. When k is greater than 1, This process will be called as the high boost filtering. So if we are going to choose k greater than 1, that means we are going to remove the contribution of the unsharp mask. Now we will see how this unsharp masking is going to work on this particular signal. So here we are going to consider one signal, that is a scan line, horizontal scan line, and this scan line, it is moving from a dark region to a light region. So we will see now how for this image the unsharp masking is going to work. So this is the result what we are going to get when I am going to apply my smoothing signal on my original signal. So when you apply the smoothing signal on the original signal, you can see that the signal will be blurred. So the dashed line what is there over here, that is my original signal, and my line which is continuous, that is the blurred signal. So when I am going to apply the smoothing on my original, the signal becomes blur. So this is the result what I am getting after subtracting the blurred signal from the original. So we can compare this one with the previous section what we had, the ramp and the intensities and all. We can see that it is very similar to what we are getting when we were making use of a second order derivative. So this is the final result what we had got, that is the sharpened result after I am adding the mask to the original signal. So we can see that the change of slope, wherever the intensity is changing, in that places now we are having more sharpened features. That means by making use of this filter, this is the output what I am going to get. I am going to get a sharpened image. When I am adding my image C and image A, you can see that we can also add the negative values. But we have to take care that the K value will be chosen properly, so that it will emphasize the peaks of the mask to a level which is larger than the minimum value in the original. So if we are having very large negative values, means it is going to create a objectionable result. The result won't be good. So we should be careful that whenever we are having the negative intensity, we should see that the K value will be chosen appropriately. It should not harm the result. It should give the peaks what are there or the features what are there. They should be highlighted, but the overall image should not be spoiled. In such a way, we have to go for choosing the K value. Now we will see another method, that is we are going to make use the first order derivatives for non-linear image sharpening, that is by making use of the gradient method. So the first derivatives in the image processing, they are implemented using the magnitude of the gradient. If I am having an input image which is represented by the function f of xy, the gradient of this function f at the coordinates xy, it can be defined by a two-dimensional column vector. So this two-dimensional column vector is given by gx and gy, where it is equal to dou f by dou x and dou f by dou y. So this is called as my gradient. So by using the gradient also we can go for sharpening the features. The gradient vectors, they are the non-linear. That means they give rise to a filter which is non-linear. Previously what we had, the Laplacian, it was linear, but this will be non-linear. So in this case we are going to consider the magnitude of the vector, that is the function f of xy. This magnitude is given by m of xy, which is equal to magnitude of delta of f. So this magnitude what is there, it will be always in the direction of the greatest rate of change. That means the image where the changes will be there, in that direction it will be oriented. This m of xy, it is the value at xy of the rate of change in the direction of the gradient vector. So wherever there is a maximum change in the same direction, m of xy will also be there. The m of xy is an image which will be the same size as the original image, which will be created when we are having the x and y values will be over all the pixel locations in the original image f of xy. So it is also called as the gradient image. This m of xy, it is also called as the gradient image because we are making use of the gradient vectors here, that is gx and gy. So some more properties about this gradient. So the partial derivatives what we are going to obtain by using the gradient, they are not rotation invariant. That means if you are going to rotate them and then apply the filtering, and if you filter and then apply the rotation, it will not give the same result. Whereas in the previous case in the Laplacian we were getting the same result. It was rotation invariant. But in this case it is not rotation invariant. But the magnitude, it will be the same thing as in the Laplacian. So in some implementations, we can consider only the squares and the square roots of the m of xy. The m of xy is nothing but it is the gradient vector. So this expression, it is going to preserve the changes in the intensity, but we will not be having the isotropic property like how we have discussed. However, as in the case of the Laplacian, here also it will be defined by making use of number of rotational increments, and this rotation increments, it will depend upon the filter mask, which is be going to approximate the derivatives. Like in the Laplacian, we can define the discrete approximation for the equations and then we are going to formulate a mask. In order to simplify the discussion, we are just going to consider a 3x3 region. So we will be having the mask here from Z1 to Z9. I am going to consider the center point as the Z5. The Z5 will denote the function f of xy at an arbitrary location xy. Z1 will denote f of x minus 1, y minus 1 and so on, like how we have done in the previous case. The simple approximation to the first order derivative that is going to satisfy the conditions stated in the sections are g of x will be equal to z8 minus z5, gy will be equal to z6 minus z5. This is one way how we can implement. This is the 3x3 mask what we are going to make use of in the gradient. You can see here we are having the values from z1 to z9. So different people interpret this as different ways. We will see how by making use of this mask we can get different values in the matrix. So this is a 3x3 region for gradients. So that the z's what are present here, they are the intensity values. One set of mask is called as the Roberts cross gradient operator. In this operator, we are going to consider only 4 values, that is 5, 6, 8 and 9. That is Z5, Z6, Z8 and Z9. By making use of these 4 values, we compute the Gx and the Gy value by taking the difference, and then when we are going to square root this one and we are going to find the absolute values, we are going to get a mask which will be a 2x2 mask. And this is a mask which will be used for enhancing the image. It can go for sharpening the image. This is called as a Roberts cross gradient sharpening operator. So here the x and y value, they are going to vary over the dimensions of the image, and the partial derivative for this when you are going to consider, it will be creating a 2 linear filter mask. And these 2 linear filter masks you can see in the picture B and C, it is called as the Roberts cross gradient operator, or it is also called as a mask which can be used for sharpening the image. This is the Roberts cross gradient operators. Here we are making use of only 4 values of the entire 3x3 mask. So this when you apply on the image, you will see that the image can be sharpened. Whenever we are having a masks of the even sizes, that means it can be 2x2, 4x2, it is very awkward to implement. It is not that it is impossible to implement, but it is awkward to implement because they will not have symmetry. But when we go for a odd sized mask, it is very easy to implement because it will be having symmetry. So we are going to consider one smallest filter mask which is of 3x3, and the approximation to the Gx and the Gy by making use of the 3x3 neighborhood, it is given by the equation 3, 6, 16 and 3, 6, 17. where we are finding the gradient for the x and the gradient for the y by making use of all the 9 values in the 3 cross 3 neighborhood. These filter masks what we are seeing here, these are called as the Sobel operators. The Sobel operators is a 3 cross 3 mask. In this 3 cross 3 mask, we can see that we have two types, where we have the middle row as 0 or the middle column as 0. And then when we sum up all the values here, we will see that the sum will be equal to 0. So this is the property of a Sobel operator. The person called as Sobel, he has introduced this operator. The Sobel operators, they make use of all the intensities from Z1 to Z9, and by making use of this equation 3.618, I am going to get the Sobel operator. The idea here is we are using a weight of 2 in the center coefficient so that we can achieve some smoothing or we can achieve some blurring. We are giving the importance to the center point here. All the coefficients in the mask shown here, they are going to sum up to 0. That means they will give a response of 0 if a area is having a constant intensity. So that is the property of this derivative operator. If the intensity is 0 at a point, then the response there, that means there won't be any change. If the intensity is more, then there will be a change. And the center point will be always little blurred, and that is the effect of the Sobel operators. The equations for the Sobel operators, they can be implemented by making use of the masks what are shown in the pictures, D and E. The difference between the third and the first row of the 3 cross 3 image, it is implemented by the mask in D. And it is going to approximate a partial derivative in the x direction. When we go for the difference between the third and the first column and we are going to approximate in the derivative in the y direction, then I am going to get the image E. After computing the partial derivatives for these masks, we are obtaining the magnitude of the gradient as before in the equation. And then the gx and gy are substituted and it is going to give m of xy, that is the magnitude of x comma y. In this way, when we are going to derive, this is called as the Sobel operators. Coming to the conclusion of the Sobel operators. Here the computations of the gx and the gy, that is the gradient vectors on the x and y, they are linear operations because they are going to involve the derivatives and they can be implemented as sum of products by making use of the spatial mask. The non-linear aspect of this sharpening with the gradient, that will be the magnitude because it will involve the squaring and the square roots or the use of the absolute values. So when we are having the squaring or the square root or the absolute values, all these are the non-linear operations. So these operations are usually performed after the linear process. First we are going to obtain the linear process and then we are going to obtain the non-linear operations. Overall, but this Sobel operators, we can see that it will be giving rise to a non-linear filter. Okay, then we will continue on the filters in the next class. That's all for today. Thank you very much.